"Boss, your phone is ringing," Ethan said, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of the car. Daniel sat in the passenger seat, looking effortlessly pristine in an Italian linen shirt. The sunlight filtering through the window turned the oatmeal fabric a soft cream color, the sleeves rolled up just twice to reveal a wrist adorned with a vintage brown watch. He turned his head slightly, and the side mirror caught the reflection of his face. His skin was pale, his hair styled back with just enough product to look intentional but relaxed, revealing a clean forehead and neat brows. A pair of square sunglasses perched on the bridge of his nose, obscuring half his face and hiding any trace of emotion. The phone kept ringing. Ethan, his assistant who was driving, reminded him again. "Daniel, aren't you going to answer that?" Daniel finally reacted, lifting his hand. The ringing, vibrating phone was clasped loosely between his fingers. The caller ID read Ryan. Daniel's thumb hovered over the screen for 3 or 4 seconds before he finally slid the answer button. Ethan sighed silently to himself, thinking, always a struggle. As soon as the call connected, Ryan's voice boomed from the speaker, full of energy. He sounded like a man in a very good mood. "Hello? Daniel, it's me. Have you left yet?" Daniel's back lifted slightly from the seat, and his other hand relaxed from a loose fist to rest on his thigh, smoothing out a wrinkle in his trousers. He glanced at a passing road sign and replied, "We're almost at the airport." Ryan sounded delighted. "Great. I've sent a car to the airport to pick you up. Do you want to go straight to the hotel or come to the set first?" "Where are you?" Daniel asked, his voice low and even. "I'm shooting location scenes today," Ryan replied. "If you come to the set, I'll wrap up early to welcome you properly." "Don't delay your work," Daniel said. "I'll go to the hotel." "That works too. Rest at the hotel for a couple of hours, and I'll see you tonight," Ryan said, calculating the time. "We have to do hot pot tonight, right? I'll book a table in advance." After a few more exchanges, Daniel's straight back slowly relaxed, leaning into the seat again, his tone lightening just a fraction. "All right. Wait until you wrap. See you tonight." The car pulled up to the curb in front of the airport terminal, and the engine died. Daniel hung up, unbuckled his seatbelt, and gave his instructions. "Notify the hotel you booked later. Fill the fridge with black coffee. Canned is fine." Ethan had been with Daniel for 7 years, ever since the inception of Daniel's writing studio, Cloud9. He knew every one of Daniel's habits. "Already notified them," Ethan said. "Boss, try to get some rest. Don't stay up too late." Daniel treated the advice like wind passing his ears, wondering instead if it was currently peak tourist season and if there would be crowds. He hated running into too many people at hotels. The room is 6206, a suite on the top floor. "There aren't many rooms on that level, so don't worry," Ethan offered, anticipating the concern. "I didn't know when you'd be back, so I booked it for a week." Daniel wasn't sure either. The duration of his stay depended on whether the production went smoothly. He tossed his house keys onto the center console. "Feed the cat and water the plants for me. The place might be a bit messy." Having been an assistant for years, Ethan's visits to Daniel's private residence were rare, usually only occurring when Daniel was on long business trips. He picked up the keys. "I'll help tidy up a bit then." "No need," Daniel said, and he wasn't being polite. "I like it messy." Ethan nodded sheepishly as his phone received an email. It contained care instructions for over a dozen types of plants and notes on feeding the cat. "Received it?" Daniel asked, pocketing his phone. "Old rules. Email for business, text less, and only call me in a dire emergency." Ethan knew the drill by heart, but couldn't help a silent retort. "If I call you in a dire emergency, by the time you pick up, I'll probably be third-degree burned." Daniel glanced at his watch. It was time to go. He gave one final instruction. "Pick out a gift for Mr. Johnson, the head of the review board. Budget under 10,000. Ethan knew exactly what that meant. "Got it. Don't worry, boss." Daniel entered the airport right on time and checked his luggage. He carried only a black Hermes Phantom bag containing the manuscripts he needed to read during the flight. By the time he passed security, there was no time to wait in the lounge. He was nearly the last passenger to board. Daniel loved the process of flying. It was the only time he could legitimately turn off his phone in broad daylight without worrying about sudden texts or calls. The moment the screen went black, he felt a wave of peace and relaxation. The plane taxied and lifted off. The city below shrank into the likeness of a circuit board before being buried beneath swirling clouds. Inside the quiet first-class cabin, some people read, others listen to music. Daniel was focused on a manuscript, a pen twirling between his fingers as he occasionally made notes and revisions. Everyone was in their own world. No one noticed that right there, in this enclosed metal tube, sat a celebrity. Even the flight attendants walking back and forth didn't notice. In a window seat, Douglas was tilting his head back, dozing off. The script covering his face gradually slid sideways with the turbulence, sliding down his right cheek to his shoulder. Douglas's agent sat in the adjacent seat, a man with a buzz cut and black-rimmed glasses, dressed in an expensive Nike outfit that screamed, "Trying too hard." He reached over the partition, picked up the script, rolled it into a tube, and tapped Douglas on the shoulder. Douglas jolted awake, straightening his neck. He wore no sunglasses, no mask, and no makeup. His face was completely exposed, tan skin, prominent brow bone, high nose bridge. His contours were smooth and three-dimensional, exuding masculinity. But his eyes ruined the tough guy image. The corners were rounded, not sharp, giving this face full of male hormones a touch of innocent childishness. "We're joining the crew this afternoon," his agent, Sam, said. "I can't believe you can still sleep." Douglas rubbed his eyes. "I'm joining a film crew, not going to prison. Why shouldn't I sleep?" Sam leaned sideways against the partition, whispering, "Is this time the same as before? This time you're the male lead. If you were going to prison, you'd be a felon on death row with this level of importance." Douglas twisted around to face Sam, joy radiating from his brow. "That's why I'm sleepy. I was so excited last night, I couldn't sleep for half the night." A flight attendant passed by, gently reminding them, "Sir, please sit properly." In the entertainment industry, the hierarchy was strict. First-tier stars were gods. Second-tier were glamorous. Third-tier had name recognition. Fourth-tier claimed they were low-profile because they couldn't get famous. Fifth, sixth, and seventh tiers could scrape together a fan base. Eighth-tier actors usually bought their own followers to maintain dignity. Those like Douglas, whom no one would recognize even if they met, were collectively termed the 18th tier. As an 18th tier small-time actor, Douglas had appeared in 4 or 5 TV dramas. In every single one, he was the 5th male lead or lower, a glorified extra. His scenes usually ended before the audience could even remember his face. 1.5 years into the industry, he had no fans swarming him, no big team handling his affairs. He only had Sam, a workplace rookie with 0 experience and 0 connections, acting as his agent and assistant. But Sam was diligent, like a parent studying alongside a high school senior. Most importantly, he was full of hope for Douglas, firmly believing that Douglas would one day be a superstar, the brightest star in the entertainment galaxy. After 3 hours of flight, the plane circled into the southwest region and slowly descended into the rainy city. Passengers disembarked. Douglas stood up, his 6'2" height making him stand out like a crane among chickens. He shook out a long trench coat and put it on. Only he could pull it off. On Sam, it would have dragged on the floor. Underneath, he wore a simple t-shirt and chinos, with canvas shoes on his feet. After getting off the plane, Douglas used his long legs to stride ahead, leaving Sam far behind. He walked straight to the terminal and stopped, standing amidst the bustling crowd. Sam caught up, panting. "I just contacted the production coordinator. He said there's a car coming to pick us up. He's sending the license plate number right now." This was the norm for the 18th tier. In the busy airport, there were no fans chasing him, no passers-by asking for photos, no airport fashion shoots, and certainly no production crew waiting in advance with flowers. They just had to wait. Douglas couldn't sit still. "Let's wait outside. The production cars have logos, they're easy to find." Outside, cars were lined up. The two of them walked along the white line. Based on past experience, it would likely be a minivan. If the production was poor, they might even get a beat-up van. Douglas scanned the row of cars and stopped dead when his eyes landed on one. Sam poked his head out from behind, following Douglas's gaze. When he saw it, he pushed up his glasses in disbelief. Holy crap. It was a Porsche Cayenne, 90% new, freshly washed and serviced. The body lines gleamed with a dark luster, the the windows more reflective than mirrors. In the driver's seat, the driver wore a shirt and tie and looked professional. Douglas had been to many sets. This kind of treatment was a first since the beginning of time. He said with a lack of confidence, "They got it wrong, didn't they?" Sam jutted his chin toward the windshield. In the bottom left corner was a placard. It read, "The first night crew, A1. To facilitate logistics, every crew vehicle had a number. A1 belonged to the highest tier." Black and white text usually didn't lie. Douglas gained a little confidence, secretly delighted. In the 3 hours we were flying, did I suddenly become famous? Sam, always ready with sweet words, said, "Can't you ride in it if you aren't famous? You're not an extra anymore." Douglas nodded, easily swayed. "Right. I'm the male lead this time. I'm the soul of the entire show. The soul should have the status of a soul." Sam, showing great initiative, stepped forward and pulled the car door open. The interior was lined with brand new carpet, the leather trim exquisite. Every seat had a Sichuan embroidery cushion, and up close, there was a faint scent of expensive fragrance. Douglas coolly flared his trench coat, lifted his leg, and stepped into the car, settling into the plush seat in one smooth motion. The driver jumped, turning halfway around. He looked at the suddenly appearing Douglas and Sam with surprise, staring for a full 4 or 5 seconds. Douglas snapped his fingers in the air. "Driver, are you stunned by my handsomeness?" The driver snapped out of it, hesitating as he greeted them. "You are going to the set?" "Yeah, we just got off the plane," Sam said. "Don't just stare, give us a hand with the luggage." The driver got out to help. While lifting the suitcases, he eyed them, unable to stop himself from confirming again. "Is this for the first night crew? How could it be wrong?" Sam retorted. "The coordinator is unreliable, sending the plate number late. Luckily this car is conspicuous." Douglas felt thirsty. He twisted open a bottle of Perrier prepared in the car and handed a can of cola to Sam. He took a sip and asked, "Driver, how long to the set?" The driver answered, "About an hour and a half." Douglas frowned, feeling this driver was sluggish, stammering through every sentence. His family had 2 drivers, old and young, who adhered to 3 rules: precise answers, fast action, steady driving. "It's getting late," Douglas said. "All right, let's go." The driver didn't move. Instead, he looked toward the terminal, finally voicing his confusion. "Director Lewis went in to pick you up. Did you not see him?" Outside the arrival gate, a well-dressed middle-aged man had been waiting for a long time. His name was Lewis, the production manager for the first night. The VIP channel was quieting down. Daniel had been the last to board and was nearly the last to leave. He knew someone was waiting for him, but the closer he got to the exit, the more his steps uncontrollably slowed. Lewis spotted Daniel's figure with sharp eyes and immediately waved, shouting enthusiastically, "Daniel! It's been ages." Hearing the voice, Daniel's grip on his suitcase tightened. As he approached, he shook the extended hand. "Long time no see. I didn't expect to trouble you to pick me up personally." "Not at all," Lewis laughed. "The car is just outside. Let's take you to the hotel to rest first." Inside the Porsche, Douglas looked at Sam, asking with his eyes, "Who is Director Lewis?" Sam quickly scanned his mental database. There were many Lewises, but only one worthy of being called director. He was startled, leaning into Douglas's ear. "I think the production manager's last name is Lewis." "Holy crap! The production manager came to pick me up?" While they were whispering, they didn't notice someone approaching the car door. When the door was pulled open again, Douglas and Sam looked up in unison. Director Lewis appeared at the door. His exquisite Armani suit couldn't hide his beer belly, and his gold-rimmed glasses couldn't hide the shock on his face. He froze, blocking the doorway, locking eyes with the people inside. The driver broke the deadlock first. "Director Lewis, look." Sam reacted quickly, sliding off the seat and extending both hands. "Director Lewis, hello. I didn't expect you to come personally." Lewis shook his hand lightly, but his gaze remained on Douglas, seeming to struggle to recall who this was. Sam immediately said, "This is my artist, Douglas. We're joining the crew today, just got off the plane." Lewis nodded in realization. "It's Douglas." "Director Lewis, hello," Douglas chimed in. Lewis asked, "Did you contact the crew? Who was the coordinator responsible for the connection?" "It was Johnson," Sam said. "Johnson must be busy. We saw the cruise car parked here and just got in. Lewis pulled out his phone, dialing as he spoke. That Johnson is famous for being sloppy. Wait a moment, let me ask him. Douglas gripped the Perrier bottle tight, a bad premonition washing over him. How do you handle things? You can't even manage a few cars without issues, leaving the actors hanging after they land? Don't give me excuses about scheduling. Fine, stop apologizing to me. Lewis scolded the person on the phone for a few sentences, then hung up, smoothing his brow. Douglas, here's the situation. I asked Johnson. The car picking you up should be a different one. Douglas, huh? There are a lot of actors arriving these past 2 days. Cars are tight. It might be a bit slow, Lewis said. I scolded Johnson. When you get to the set, I'll make him apologize to you properly. Douglas was a bit dazed. Then we now? Lewis smiled, answering euphemistically. Then we'll see you on set. Douglas's tanned face turned instantly red. He had warmed the seat, drunk half a bottle of Perrier, and cuddled the Sichuan embroidery cushion. And the result was that this car wasn't for him. It was like Cinderella putting on her makeup and dress, only for the pumpkin carriage to refuse the ride. Sam had never encountered such a situation in his career. It was a loss of face. He gritted his teeth and tried to negotiate. There are extra seats. Can we go together? I'm afraid that's not convenient, Lewis said. Please understand. There was not a shred of dignity left. Douglas's head buzzed. He abruptly stood up from the seat and stepped out of the car with his long legs. At that moment, Lewis stepped aside, revealing Daniel, who had been standing behind him. Douglas stepped right in front of Daniel. He looked down at the person who was actually being picked up by a Porsche and the production manager. However, Daniel's sunglasses covered most of his face. Douglas could only see his own reflection in the lenses. Awkward, disappointed, annoyed. After meeting eyes for just 1 second, Daniel lifted his leg and got into the car, sitting in the seat Douglas had just warmed. The driver unloaded their suitcases and loaded Daniel's. Douglas and Sam stood side by side, watching the door close and the engine start. The Porsche was about to leave them behind. Suddenly, Douglas rushed up and slapped the car window. Daniel had little patience left. He rolled the window down a crack. What is it? Douglas held up the cushion in his arms. Forgot to put this back, Daniel said indifferently. Keep it as a souvenir. Before Douglas could react, Daniel closed the window. The Porsche gradually drove away, leaving behind a trail of exhaust. Sam held up his phone. The license plate number just came through. Being ignored used to be fine. But now, as the male lead, being slighted like this was humiliating. Douglas said speechlessly, real fast. Did they send it using Internet Explorer? Sam comforted him. Let them off for now. Just wait. I'll find the car. 10 minutes later, Douglas was finally sitting in his designated minivan. It smelled of stale perfume. He hugged his elbows, watching the scenery fly by, thinking that with all these hills in the city, no wonder he experienced such ups and downs immediately upon arrival. Douglas couldn't help but sing a lyric in his deep voice. Drifting and turning in the sea of people, it is but a dream. Sam said, singing again? Your identity now is an actor. Douglas turned a deaf ear. Deep love passed down forever floats into nothingness. The car wound around for 2 hours before sliding into an old neighborhood. The roadside was lined with ancient trees and residential buildings. A moment later, they saw several minivans parked ahead. It looked like temporary parking rented by the crew. We're here. Douglas didn't see anyone. The driver was cool. Follow me. Douglas and Sam followed the driver through a narrow alley. Emerging from the end of the alley, it was like refreshing a web page. Another old street and several residential buildings appeared before them. They had arrived at the set. The scene before them was highly consistent with the script's description, an old street, cracked pavement, stained with grime. A no entry sign lay rusting on the sidewalk, left behind from some long-forgotten construction. People walked by, ignoring it. A stray cat was sleeping right under the sign, looking more comfortable than a first-class passenger. The street was lined with shops, a small supermarket, a barber shop, a photo studio that also did printing, and 2 snack shops that had been competing for over a decade. The residential complex across the street was quite old, with no gates or security guards. People came and went freely. There were only 2 buildings in the complex, the paint peeling off in large patches. Any smooth surface was plastered with small advertisements. 7 floors in total. Some balconies weren't enclosed, displaying a mix of drying underwear and wind-cured sausages. The balcony on the 3rd floor was the cleanest. A row of potted plants and 2 pairs of clean sneakers sat on the sill. One window pane was missing a corner, patched up with a math test paper displaying a large, red 39. Douglas looked up. He knew that was his home. A wiry young man ran out of Unit 1, holding a stack of forms under his arm. He braked urgently upon seeing Douglas. He came over, bowing 90 degrees. "Our male lead has arrived. I must apologize." Sam guessed. "Johnson?" It's me. Johnson bowed again. "Sorry, today was chaotic. I went to count items for the prop team after dispatching the cars. I'm really sorry." Douglas, whose temper came and went like the wind, said carelessly, "It's fine. Thank you for understanding," Johnson said, pulling out a form. "Douglas, sign in first, then I'll show you around." Sam asked, "Is Director Ryan here? We want to pay our respects." Johnson said, "Ryan went to shoot location scenes. He said everyone will meet tomorrow, no need to wait for him." Douglas dodged the dreaded social niceties, signed in, and familiarized himself with the environment. The coordinator's office, storage, and makeup rooms were concentrated in Unit 1. Apartment 101 was a 2-bedroom suite, cleaned and furnished to serve as the director's lounge, though the director was too busy to rest. Behind the complex was an open lot filled with RVs of uniform specifications. Finding the one labeled with Douglas's name, Johnson said, "Actors rest in the RVs. If you need any supplies or food, just tell the crew assistant." Sam asked, after wrapping up, "Do we have to walk through the alley to get to the minivan?" "Yes, the place is small, so the vans have to park on the next street," Johnson answered. Sam asked suggestively, "Does everyone take the minivan?" "Everyone is the same," Johnson said. "Douglas is the male lead, so I specifically arranged a new car. But actors have been arriving in bunches. We picked up the female lead at noon." Sam wouldn't give up. "I feel like there's a Porsche." "There is indeed a Porsche. It's Director Ryan's private car." "I don't have the authority to arrange that," Johnson recalled. "Oh right. When you were waiting at the airport, why did Director Lewis call me?" Sam said, "We met Director Lewis at the airport." Johnson muttered, "What did Director Lewis go to the airport for?" Douglas and Sam exchanged a look. Using Ryan's car, getting Lewis to drive. Even the coordinator didn't know who it was. If that person was famous, there should have been fans. If they were a big shot, they should have recognized them. According to the industry's invisible laws, this kind of treatment for an unknown usually meant one thing: a connection, someone with a back end. Johnson had things to do. "If there are any issues, find me anytime. If not, Douglas should go back to the hotel early to rest." "Can I ask, are you staying at the crew's hotel or handling it yourself?" Douglas said, "Handling it myself." Unless it interfered with filming, he always chose to stay out. As an 18th-tier actor, bumping into tiers 1 through 17 in the hallway meant he had to say hello to everyone. It was annoying. Plus, his family's company had a partnership with the designated hotel chain, keeping a suite for him year-round. His phone beeped. It was a message from the hotel asking about pickup services, private dining, or spa reservations. Douglas declined everything, glancing at the room number, high-altitude Riverview Room, 6207. Starving, Douglas and Sam found a Chongqing restaurant. While ordering, Douglas looked at the schedule. Tomorrow was a full day of script reading at the hotel. In the evening, the whole crew would have the opening banquet. Sam was lecturing him on logistics, but Douglas didn't hear a word. "Isn't that all your job? What if I'm not there?" Sam propped his chin on his hand. "Before, you were a minor character, nobody cared. Now you're the male lead. I have to work hard to build connections." Douglas asked, Like trying to get a photo with the female lead?" Sam replied. They toasted to starting work. Sam sighed. The entertainment industry is metaphysics. So many people auditioned. People more famous, with backgrounds, knowing the producers. And yet, you beat them all. Douglas repeated his line. "I've never competed so hard." The production had held open casting for the male lead, looking for a fresh face. Douglas hadn't held out hope. He remembered the audition day. He had been reading a comic book when a guy walked by and asked why he wasn't preparing. Douglas had looked up and said, "I'm a Buddhist. I go with the flow." The guy asked, You have to memorize the lines, right? Memorized, Douglas had bragged. I memorize lines fast. The guy said, that shows talent. Douglas said, I wouldn't call it talent, just a special skill. I never memorized texts in school until the teacher checked the next day. He had bragged to the man, only to find out later in the audition room that the man was the chief director, Ryan. Ryan had smiled and reminded him, don't be nervous, we sort of know each other. Douglas wasn't nervous because he was sure he hadn't got the part. To his surprise, he was chosen. Although, Sam said through a mouthful of food, although the first night is a web drama, and the director Ryan usually does urban life dramas. The competition was fierce, and the reason is probably, the screenwriter is Daniel. Meanwhile, on the street next to the restaurant, a hot pot place was packed. In a private room, Daniel sat on a long bench, fishing a slice of beef from the boiling red soup. He dipped it in sesame oil and ate it slowly. His light-colored shirt and deliberate movements seemed out of place in the fiery atmosphere. Ryan sat opposite him, coat off, sweating profusely as he drank herbal tea. No good, too spicy. Daniel glanced up. He had phoenix eyes with slightly upturned tails, eyelashes lowered, possessing an innate sense of distance. But his nose was narrow, a bit delicate for a man, and the lines of his lips and jaw were gentle, softening the temperature of his eyes. He added a large spoonful of dried chili to his dipping sauce, coating a piece of tripe in red before putting it in his mouth. I love it like this. Here, take it all. Ryan used his chopsticks to move cooked meat to Daniel's bowl. Back in college, we were roommates. I took you to my house for the weekend, and you ate half a jar of my mom's chili sauce. This meal is on me, Daniel said. You mocking me? Ryan said. With our friendship, if you want a treat me to something big. Buy you a house in the city? Daniel joked. As expected of Daniel, generous. Ryan laughed. Tomorrow night's opening banquet, you can reimburse me for the cost. Daniel's chopsticks paused in midair. He pulled them back and placed them gently on the rest. He wiped his mouth, a hint of complaint in his tone. What a coincidence. Ryan didn't notice. If you came 2 days later, you'd miss it. Tomorrow, not only the actors, but the co-producers are coming too. You invested the bulk of the money and you wrote it. You have to be there. Why did you choose him? Daniel asked suddenly, referring to the male lead. Who? Douglas. Ryan drove the car, glancing at the back seat in the mirror. That guy? I asked him why he wasn't preparing at the audition, and he gave me this attitude. I don't like studying. I'm just participating in the exam. I don't care. It was perfect. Ryan paused. He's exactly like Neil. Daniel was silent for a moment. He does resemble Neil. Neil is the lead, so isn't that right? But Neil is a moron, Daniel said slowly. Ryan unlocked the car doors as they arrived at the hotel. Are you coming to the script reading tomorrow? Daniel shook his head. You handle it. I trust you. Daniel returned to the hotel. Passing through the lobby, he glimpsed a tall and a short figure out of the corner of his eye, but paid no attention, walking straight into the elevator. Sam was checking in. I'm on the 53rd floor. It's late. Go back to your room. Put on a mask and sleep early. Douglas took his key card. The direct elevator had just closed, so he took another one. He watched the numbers climb. 62nd floor. It was quiet. Douglas stepped out slowly. He turned and saw a figure walking a few steps away. It was a man about 6 feet tall. The back of his head had soft, neat hair. His neck was slender, half exposed above the collar of an oatmeal-colored shirt. His back was thin, but his shoulders, waist, and legs were all perfectly proportioned. Douglas unconsciously turned the corner, following. The figure stopped and turned sideways outside room 6206. Holy crap, Douglas recognized him. It's you. The carpet was thick. Daniel hadn't heard footsteps. He turned to find Douglas's surprised face and blanked for a moment. The lighting was excellent. Features were fully visible. Douglas realized it wasn't that the sunglasses were big, but that the man's face was small. Douglas stared, missing the distant eyes, focusing only on Daniel's slightly parted lips. They were moist and red, like rose petals. Daniel recovered, but didn't react, turning back to fish out his key card. Hey, Douglas asked from behind. Brother, who are you playing? Daniel couldn't remember the last time someone called him brother like that. He turned back again. What did you say? Douglas, wanting to show sincerity and recover some face lost at the airport, said proactively, "No need for secrecy in the same crew. I'm Douglas, I play the male lead." Daniel was about to speak when his phone rang. Caller ID, Professor Zane. He frowned slightly. Daniel immediately swiped the card to open the door and walked in. "Hey," Douglas said. "You haven't answered me yet." Bang. The door to 6206 closed. Douglas stood frozen in the hallway. Is he confused? Whatever. I'll find out at the script reading tomorrow. Inside, Daniel didn't turn on the lights. He sat on the sofa in the dark, letting the phone ring until the last second before answering. "Daniel, it's your teacher." A warm voice came through. "Taking so long to answer. Were you sleeping?" "Sorry, teacher." The phone was in the bedroom. Daniel lied smoothly. They talked briefly about the project. Professor Zane expressed concern over Daniel doing a web drama instead of a film, but Daniel insisted he wanted to try something new. After hanging up, Daniel sat in the darkness. Finally, he got up, moving lightly like a nocturnal cat. He showered and changed into silk pajamas. He didn't drink the black coffee, but wasn't sleepy. He opened his laptop in bed and typed, "Script revision outline." The next morning, Sam banged on Douglas's door like the police raiding a gambling den. Douglas opened the door, wrapped in a robe, grumpy. "It's 5:30. Going to the park for Tai Chi." "Script reading today," Sam said, dragging suitcases in. Douglas got ready. "I bet that guy from across the hall is an actor. I met him last night." "Who?" "The guy director Lewis picked up." "That's a coincidence," Sam said. "Ignore him. Probably a connection hire. You're the male lead." At the script reading, Douglas looked around 3 times. The man from 6206 was not there. So the connection hired doesn't even have to attend readings, Douglas thought. "Just here for a cameo," Ryan spoke up. "Let's start." Douglas opened the script, the first night. He played twin brothers, Nathan and Neil. During a break, Douglas rested his head on the script. His eyes fell on the cover. Below the title was the head screenwriter's name, * Daniel Starr. It sounded elegant. Douglas couldn't resist. He doodled a little swallow next to Daniel. The reading ended. Ryan announced, "I officially notify everyone that our head screenwriter, Daniel, has arrived at the crew. He's in the city now." Douglas was surprised. The others shouted, "Really?" "I only give real news," Ryan said. "Teacher Daniel will attend the opening banquet tonight." The actors were instantly energized. Daniel was a legend, award-winning, mysterious, a student of Professor Zane. Knowing he was coming was a chance to climb the ladder. That evening, Daniel showered. He chose a black shirt with a traditional collar and a sharp black suit. No tie, no pocket square. For him, attending a banquet felt about the same as attending a funeral. Douglas was getting ready in a temporary room. Sam snatched the mints from him. "Stop eating. What if you offend Teacher Daniel with the smell?" "How would I offend him? I'm not kissing him." "Why would you think of kissing a man?" Sam paused. Douglas was stumped. "Will Daniel see me?" "Of course," Sam said. "You're the male lead. The soul of the show." Douglas felt a surge of excitement. "If he appreciates me, maybe next time I can be in a Zane movie. Who's gonna stop you?" Sam adjusted his glasses. "When you win Best Actor, I'll write a biography." At the banquet, Douglas greeted the cast, but was nervous about the big shots in the private room. Inside the private room, the air was thick with alcohol. A large round table was filled with bottles. Ryan sat at the head. On his right was President Zhou of Sunrise Culture. On his left was Daniel. Daniel sat silently. When he looked up, he wore a polite, faint smile. He drank glass after glass because alcohol helped him relax. The director's assistant came over. "Director Ryan, Daniel. The actors want to come say hello." "Skip it." Ryan waved his hand. "Unless necessary, Daniel hates interacting with actors." Daniel finally spoke up, his voice calm. "Forget the rest. Let me see the soul of the show." Ryan asked, "There's such a thing?" "The one named Douglas," Daniel said, a hint of amusement in his tone. "The male lead." Outside, the assistant found Douglas. "Teacher Daniel asked to see you." Sam grabbed Douglas's hands. "Did you hear that? He asked for you by name." Douglas was thrilled. "What does he look like?" "He's sitting next to Director Ryan, wearing black," the assistant said. 10 minutes. Sam handed Douglas a prepared speech. "Use this. Be sincere, be clumsy. Make him remember you." Douglas memorized it. "I'll add a sentimental line at the end." Douglas entered the private room. He saw the man from 6206 sitting there eating noodles. Why is he here? Douglas wondered. Then he saw Ryan. And next to Ryan, a balding middle-aged man in a suit. That must be Daniel. The assistant said black clothes. The balding man was wearing a dark suit. Douglas walked past the noodle eater and stopped next to the balding man. He bowed slightly. Teacher Daniel, hello. The sound of eating noodles stopped. Douglas took a deep breath. Teacher Daniel, my name is Douglas. I have always been your fan. I never dared to dream I could act in your script. I am so excited to meet you. President Joe tried to speak. Young man. Teacher Daniel. Douglas interrupted, following his script. I know every character is your blood and sweat. I will do my best. Watch my performance. He drank his champagne in one gulp. Then, remembering Sam's advice to be memorable, he looked at the balding man's wrinkles and said with deep emotion, Teacher Daniel, I grew up in a single-parent family. Seeing you today is like seeing my father. The room went dead silent. Daniel put down his chopsticks. He turned his face, his voice cool like cold tea. Hey. Douglas jumped and looked back. Daniel looked at him with a half-smile. Idiot. The one named Daniel is over here. Douglas felt suffocated. The table erupted in laughter. Ryan slapped his thigh. Douglas, you got the wrong person. Douglas stared at Daniel in disbelief. Impossible. This is Daniel, Ryan laughed. You just toasted President Joe. Douglas looked at the man he had met in the hallway, the man he had ignored, the man he had bragged to. This was Daniel? Daniel waited for the laughter to die down. He spoke simply. Male lead. Douglas stammered perfectly. Teacher Daniel. Do I not look like a screenwriter? Daniel repeated his question from the bathroom. Douglas sweated. Super. Super like one. Want to be best actor? Not forcing it. Ryan laughed again. Douglas, now that you've met the real Daniel, do you still think he looks like your father? Douglas's face went white then red. Daniel stopped smiling. All right, Ryan said, sensing the awkwardness. Let's go to the main hall. Everyone left, leaving only Daniel and Douglas in the room. The silence was terrifying. Douglas felt like he had been punched by a heavyweight boxer but hadn't died yet. He moved carefully and sat next to Daniel. Are you really Daniel? Douglas asked, brain still short-circuiting. Want to see my ID? No. Douglas poured wine for Daniel. Teacher Daniel. Let me toast you again. Need to say the speech again? No, I can't listen to it either. Daniel asked, Are you really my fan? I've seen all your movies. How was the script reading? Great harvest. Did you digest all the details? Douglas had a bad feeling. Not all. Stomach isn't good, huh? Douglas felt wronged. Teacher Daniel, you knew I was wrong. Why didn't you tell me? Didn't I hint at it? I'm stupid, I don't get hints. So, dummy, are you playing dumb with me? I wouldn't dare, Douglas said. You called me here to watch me make a fool of myself. Didn't you say it? Daniel replied. Since I'm here, I must see the soul of the show. Douglas burned with shame. Do you regret casting me? Daniel drank his champagne. Whether I regret it or not, we'll know after filming starts. He gestured dismissal. Get out. Douglas walked to the door, then turned back. That toast speech. My agent wrote it. Why tell me? I don't know. Daniel chuckled low. Whatever. But in the future, don't say seeing you is like seeing my father anymore. Douglas decided to shut up. Outside, Sam was waiting. How was it? He laughed. Douglas said, soul leaving his body. Then he likes you. Sam cheered. Back at the hotel, Douglas waited in the hallway. He wanted to apologize properly. Finally, Daniel appeared, smelling of alcohol, loose tie, carrying his jacket. Teacher Daniel, Douglas stepped forward. I want to apologize formally. I shouldn't have taken your car, drunk your water, or bragged. Can you forgive me? Whatever. Daniel swiped his card. Go back, don't annoy me. Douglas held the door. Teacher Daniel. One last thing. You absolutely do not look like my dad. Daniel paused. I also don't want a son like you, Daniel retorted. Douglas blinked. Holy crap, my dad said the same thing. Filming began. Daniel sat in the director's office, rewriting scenes. Ryan came in. You really staying in this old room? It's quiet. Okay. I'm off to shoot. Ryan paused at the door. Buddy, you rewriting the storyboard. Do you want to experience being a director? Just joking, Daniel said. Upstairs, Douglas was getting makeup done. He went down to the office and saw the no entry sign Daniel was taping up. Teacher Daniel, morning, Douglas said, trying to be friendly. Did you sleep well? Daniel ignored him. Need breakfast? No need to be so diligent. Douglas gave up. Then I'm going to set. Fate will bring us together again. During a break, Douglas saw Riley running into Daniel's office. Riley hugged Daniel intimately. Douglas watched, jaw-dropping. They are definitely together, he thought. Sugar daddy and sugar baby. Later, Daniel called Douglas into the office. Sit. Douglas sat, nervous. Do you regret choosing me? You failed, Daniel said. Douglas froze. First time being criticized? Daniel asked calm. Douglas admitted it. My dad never supported me. He said I wasn't cut out for this. I wanted to prove him wrong. Have you considered maybe your dad is right? Daniel asked. Investing in you has a low return. Why? Douglas demanded. Because I'm not famous yet? Because you act badly, Daniel said. You don't understand the character. Douglas stood up, angry. If you look down on me, why did you pick me? You were cheap, Daniel said lightly. Douglas shattered. Because I'm cheap. Your fee is less than a third of Riley's. Douglas left, humiliated and furious. But later, during the reshoot, he channeled that humiliation into the character of Nathan, the overlooked brother. Cut. Good, Ryan shouted. That was real emotion. Daniel watched from the monitor, silent. He knew exactly what Douglas needed to feel. That night, Douglas sat under the grape trellis on set, exhausted. Daniel was there, resting his head on his arms. I didn't screw up, Douglas said. You acted well, Daniel said, voice hoarse. Then why are you unhappy? Daniel didn't answer. Douglas handed him a wet wipe. I cheated. I thought of my mom. You didn't cheat, Daniel said gently. Your mom helped you. Douglas felt a knot loosen. The next day it rained. A night shoot. The car accident scene. Douglas was rigged with wires. He had to fall onto the wet pavement repeatedly. Cut. Again, Daniel shouted. Not hard enough. Douglas fell again and again. 8 takes. He was soaked, bruised, and exhausted. Finally, Daniel walked over with an umbrella. Can you move? Douglas nodded, water dripping from his face. Daniel reached out and wiped a smudge of mud from Douglas's eye socket. His hand was warm. Daniel, touch my face, Douglas whispered to Sam later. He felt sorry for you, Sam said. After the shoot, Douglas was shivering. Daniel found him shivering by the van. Get in. In the van, Douglas saw Daniel shivering too. He grabbed a purple sweater he had rejected earlier. Here. Wear this. Daniel put it on. It was too big, emphasizing his slender fingers. You wrote my name on your notes, Daniel pointed out later. Douglas blushed. I was respecting you. The next evening, Douglas called his father, pretending to talk to a lover to make Daniel jealous. Baby, don't be mad, Douglas said into the phone. Daniel frowned, annoyed. Then Douglas found Daniel burning up with fever in his hotel room. He rushed him to the hospital. At the hospital, Riley showed up. Brother, Riley hugged Daniel. Douglas stood there, the third wheel. He left to get a nurse's number. When he came back, Riley explained. Daniel is my brother. My real brother. Douglas felt his soul ascend. Asterisk brother? Not sugar daddy. Asterisk I knew that, Douglas lied. Back at the hotel, Douglas confronted Daniel. I thought you were his sugar daddy. I thought you wanted to sleep with me. I treat you like a brother, Daniel said. Douglas felt a strange pang of disappointment. The next morning, Daniel was leaving. Douglas waited by the car. I'm seeing you off. At the airport, Douglas panicked. I don't have a girlfriend. That call was fake. I don't have anyone. Daniel smiled. 1 minute is up. Goodbye, teacher Daniel. Daniel stepped forward and hugged him. Thank you for making my fantasy real. Douglas stood there long after Daniel left. Back at the hotel, Douglas found a note in the shirt he had lent Daniel. A poem about a ginkgo leaf. And on the back, asterisk idiot. Can't read it, can you? Next time we meet, I'll explain it to you. Asterisk.